The last rays of the sun bled away across the savanna, dragging with them the comfort of daylight. The horizon glowed for a heartbeat in crimson and gold before fading into deep purples and endless black. A silence swept the plains, heavy and foreboding. For Homo erectus, this silence was not peace. It was the pause before terror. In the center of a small clearing, a fragile fire burned. It was little more than a cluster of smoldering branches, but to the dozen men, women, and children crouched around it, it was everything. The fire hissed and crackled, sparks leaping into the night like tiny spirits fleeing upward. Its glow lit their faces, wide-eyed, hollow-cheeked, framed by hair tangled with dust and sweat. This was survival. This was hope. Yet survival was fragile. Hope was fleeting. From the grasslands came a sound that froze blood in their veins. A roar, deep, guttural, rumbling across the earth like thunder. Then another and another. Lions, but not the lions of today. These were the ancestors of kings, larger, stronger, with manes that billowed black in the night and bodies that could topple an ox. The Homo erectus group stiffened as the roars rolled through the dark. Children whimpered softly, silenced by the hand of a mother pressing against their mouths. Men exchanged glances, their hands tightening around stone tools, wooden clubs, and sharpened sticks. They had seen lions strike before, seen the blur of golden bodies erupt from tall grass and drag screaming prey into the dust. But tonight, the prey was them. The lions circled closer, their paws silent against the earth. In the flicker of firelight, eyes gleamed green, low to the ground, unblinking. The humans held their breath. Fire was their only defense. One man, scarred and broad-shouldered, rose. He reached into the flames, ignoring the searing heat, and pulled free a branch. It burst into light, a torch. He waved it high, the fire dancing wildly, casting shadows across his face. The lions paused, uncertain. Fire was strange. Fire was new. No beast owned fire but man. A growl rolled from the dark. Muscles tensed, tails flicked. The predators were testing, measuring. Would the humans falter? Would the fire wane? Then came another sound. Shrill, mocking, a cackle. From the east came the hyenas. Their hunched silhouettes bobbed as they trotted through the tall grass, their massive jaws swinging, their laughter a chilling symphony. Unlike the lions, who stalked with patience, hyenas hunted with chaos. They mobbed, harassed, stole, and shattered resolve. And tonight, they had caught the scent of bones, bones cracked by human hands to scoop out the sweet marrow. The scraps still lay near the fire, their grease staining the soil. The hyenas circled, laughing louder, the sound bouncing across the plains like echoes of madness. Their eyes gleamed with hunger, and their shoulders twitched as they paced just beyond the firelight. One lunged suddenly, jaws snapping at a discarded bone. The humans shouted, rocks flew from their hands. A stick ablaze with fire whistled through the air. The hyena yelped as the burning wood grazed its flank. The stink of singed fur filling the clearing. It leapt back, howling, but others pressed forward. The lions watched, their ears flicked. Their patience was legendary. They would let the hyenas test the humans, wear them down, force mistakes. When panic broke, the lions would strike. From the shadows of a nearby tree, another predator watched in silence, a leopard. Its golden body rippled with muscle as it crouched on a thick branch. Its gaze was not on the fire, not on the men with torches. Its gaze was fixed on the smallest figures, the children. For leopards, opportunism was survival. A single misstep, a child too near the edge, and the leopard would strike faster than thought. The humans sensed it. A mother drew her child closer, clutching him tight. Another adult hissed a warning to the group, pointing toward the tree. Torches swung in that direction. The leopard blinked, unflinching, but remained still. It would wait, always waiting. The night thickened with danger. Jackals prowled at the perimeter, eyes glinting, waiting to scavenge scraps. Hyenas laughed, closing in, retreating, lunging again. Lions circled wide, shadows rippling in the tall grass. The leopard waited above, silent death. And all the while the humans huddled together, pressed tight, chanting low and rhythmic. The chants were more than noise, they were strength. A united voice, a warning to predators. We are not alone. We are not silent. We are not weak. The fire burned hotter as they fed it branches and dry brush. The flames leaped higher, their light stretching farther. For a moment the predators hesitated. The circle of firelight widened, pushing the dark back. But fire consumes. Fire always consumes. The branches dwindled. The group's pile of gathered wood was not infinite. And predators could wait all night. Hours passed. The hyenas returned again and again, darting in, stealing bones, scattering sparks as they were chased. Lions prowled closer, their roars now vibrating in the humans' chests, promising death. The leopard's tail twitched as it crept silently along the branch, edging closer. At last it came, the first true test. A lioness, bolder than the rest, broke cover. Her body was low to the ground, her muscles coiled, her eyes locked on a young man who had drifted too near the fire's edge. She moved silently, each step calculated, her tail flicking once, twice. Then she sprang. The air split with shouts. The young man screamed toward the night, but fire met fury. The scarred leader thrust his torch forward, straight into the lioness's face. She roared, swiping with massive claws, but the fire singed her whiskers, burned her nose, blinded her with heat. She stumbled back, shaking her head, retreating into the grass. The humans roared louder, voices filled with fear but also triumph. They had turned death aside. For now, the hyenas scattered briefly, startled by the chaos. The leopard hissed, backing into the branches. The lions regrouped, growling, pacing. The humans fed the fire again, the flames roaring higher, embers spiraling upward like stars. But everyone knew the truth. The predators were not gone, they were not defeated. They were waiting for exhaustion, waiting for fire to dwindle, waiting for fear to break resolve. The night stretched long. Every second was tension. Every crack of a twig, every laugh of hyenas, every roar of lions sent shivers through the group. But Homo erectus endured. They held their torches high. They fed the fire. They stayed together. For the first time in history, humanity had not run. They had not scattered into the dark. They had stood their ground against the kings and scavengers of the night. And the predators, for the first time, had learned hesitation. The fire crackled. The chants continued. Children slept against their mothers' sides. Eyes stayed fixed on the shadows. Dawn was still hours away. The battle of wills had only just begun. When the dawn finally broke, it was not with peace. The horizon split with pale light, painting the savanna in muted golds. Birds stirred, insects sang. The lions faded into tall grass, their roars trailing away into the distance. Hyenas limped off with stolen bones. The leopard melted into the trees. For a moment, silence ruled. The humans slumped around their fire, weary but alive. They had survived a night. But survival is never finished. The embers of their fire glowed weakly as they gathered themselves, stretching stiff limbs, checking wounds, tightening their meager belts of hide and fiber. Children rubbed their eyes. Women pressed water gourds to cracked lips. Hunger gnawed at all of them. The marrow bones from the last hunt were gone. Their bellies were empty. And so, their leader pointed toward the river. Water meant life, water meant hope, but water also meant danger. For every Homo erectus knew the river carried more than fish, it carried monsters. The path wound through tall grass and thorn thickets. Birds flushed at their passing. The group moved in silence, their eyes always scanning. They carried sharpened sticks, stone hammers, and fire-hardened spears. Some still clutched embers wrapped in leaves, desperate to keep the flame alive. The river revealed itself slowly, a silver band glistening in the distance, its surface glittering under the new sun. It promised relief, cool water to drink, reeds where fish swam, perhaps turtles or birds to catch. But the river did not belong to humans, it belonged to crocodiles. These were not the crocodiles of today, they were giants. Crocodilus thorbionus, massive reptiles stretching over 7 meters, armored in scales as hard as stone, jaws capable of crushing bone like twigs. Apex predators, unchanged for millions of years, and they ruled the waters with silent patience. The group approached cautiously. One man crouched near the bank, peering into the shallows. The water was still, reflecting the sky. No ripples, no movement. The reeds swayed gently in the breeze. It looked safe, but safe was an illusion. A woman dipped her gourd into the water, filling it with trembling hands. The surface broke and the world erupted. The river exploded in violence as a crocodile surged upward, jaws snapping, water spraying into the air. Its massive body crashed against the bank, tail whipping with brutal force. The woman screamed, stumbling backward as the beast lunged, teeth clamping down on empty space where her leg had been a second earlier. Chaos followed. Shouts, screams, the pounding of feet on mud. Spears jabbed forward, striking against armored scales. Stones crashed down, bouncing harmlessly from its hide. The crocodile's yellow eyes locked on the prey before it, these upright creatures who dared come close. It lunged again, jaws clashing like thunder. One man thrust his spear deep into the creature's side. The weapon shuddered, the point sinking between scales. The crocodile roared, a deep guttural bellow that shook the air. Its tail lashed, striking the man and sending him sprawling into the reeds. Blood ran from his head. The group surged together. They shouted, a chorus of fear and defiance. Torches swung, smoke curling into the morning air. Spears jabbed again and again, seeking soft flesh between the scales. The crocodile thrashed, its body writhing, its weight slamming into the bank. Mud churned under its claws. The river frothed with violence. At last, the fire made the difference. A torch thrust near its eye flared brightly, the heat searing delicate skin. The crocodile recoiled with a hiss, sliding back into the water, its body vanishing beneath the surface. Ripples spread across the river, slow and steady, then stilled. The silence was worse than the roar. The humans stood frozen, panting, spears trembling in their hands. Their eyes scanned the surface. Nothing moved. Only the reflection of the sky stared back. But they knew. It was not gone. It was waiting, always waiting. The group retreated a few steps from the water's edge, clutching their wounded. The man who had been struck by the tail groaned, blood matting his hair. They dragged him away, pressing leaves to his wound. The woman who had nearly been taken still clutched her gourd, shaking, water sloshing inside. For Homo erectus, the river was both salvation and curse. They needed its water, they needed its food. But to take from it meant to gamble with death. Hunger pushed them forward again. They lit torches from their smoldering embers, holding the fire high. They edged back toward the reeds, scanning every ripple, every shadow beneath the surface. One man cast a spear into the shallows, striking a fish. He hauled it out, its body flapping wildly, silver scales glinting in the light. A small victory. Another followed, catching a turtle crawling in the mud. But then came the second strike. From downstream, the water split like a wound. Another crocodile surged forward, its jaws clamping onto the leg of a young man. His scream split the morning air as he was dragged toward the river. The group roared in panic. They seized his arms, pulling with all their strength, muscles straining, feet digging into mud. The crocodile pulled harder. The water churned, frothing with blood. The young man shrieked, his body twisting. Spears rained down on the beast, stabbing again and again. A torch pressed against its snout sent smoke curling into its nostrils. The crocodile writhed, but its jaws would not release. Then a sickening crack bone gave way. The crocodile spun, tearing free with a man's lower leg clamped in its jaws. Blood poured into the river, clouding the water red. The beast vanished into the depths, dragging its prize. The young man collapsed into the arms of his kin, his screams shaking the air. They bound his leg with hides, pressing hard to stop the bleeding. His eyes rolled with agony, but he lived. For now, the group retreated far from the water's edge, their faces pale with terror. The river shimmered before them, calm, beautiful, deceptive. It had given them fish and turtle, but it had taken a leg. The leader raised his torch high. His voice was low, steady, commanding. They must learn, they must adapt. The river could not be trusted. It could only be approached with fire, with spears, with numbers. Alone, a human was prey. Together, they had a chance. As the sun climbed higher, the group moved upriver, seeking shallows, safer crossing points. They waded carefully, spears probing the water ahead. Crocodile eyes followed from the depths, silent, unblinking, patient. For Homo erectus, the savanna was filled with dangers, but no predator taught more fear, more caution, than the beasts that ruled the rivers. Lions could be seen, hyenas could be heard, but crocodiles were ghosts beneath the water, striking without warning, pulling life into the dark. And yet, the humans returned, again and again, because to survive meant to risk, to grow meant to challenge. And every time they fought the river monsters, every time they lit torches against armored scales, they carved another step forward in the long climb of evolution. The river shimmered, its surface broken by ripples. A crocodile's tail slid silently beneath. The humans marched on, wary, scarred, but unbroken. They were no longer the hunted alone. They were becoming hunters of hunters. The battle for dominance was only beginning. The firelight flickered low as dawn broke across the horizon. The clan stirred slowly, bodies aching from the tension of the previous night's hunt. For a brief moment, silence reigned, the world caught in the stillness between fear and survival. Kin rose before the others, the weight of leadership pressing heavily on his shoulders. His eyes scanned the clearing, where the carcass of the fallen beast still lay in the distance, half devoured by scavengers through the night. The victory had been costly, but it was not enough. Meat meant survival, and survival meant venturing deeper into lands none of them had dared to tread. Kin's mate, Asha, approached quietly. Her voice was low, almost a whisper against the wind. "Asha, the little ones are hungry. We cannot stay here. The scent of blood will call others, bigger predators." Kin nodded. He knew she was right. Already the sky above was filled with the circling shadows of vultures, and in the distance, the guttural roar of lions echoed across the plains. To remain was to invite death. With a sharp cry, Kin summoned the others. The clan gathered, their faces painted with soot, their bodies wrapped in animal hides. Children clung to their mothers, while the men gripped sharpened spears, their knuckles white with the fear of the unknown. They began their journey. The land ahead stretched vast and unforgiving. Golden grasses swayed in the morning wind, concealing dangers at every turn. Herds of giant beasts, woolly forms with tusks like curved blades, moved across the horizon. To hunt them was unthinkable, yet to starve was certain death. As the clan walked, the world around them came alive. Insects hummed, unseen predators watched from tall grasses, and the heat of the rising sun pressed against their backs. Every sound carried meaning, a warning, a promise, a memory of those who had come before and perished. By midday, thirst gnawed at them. Their last waterskin was nearly empty, and the children's lips cracked with dryness. Asha stumbled, but Kin caught her arm, steadying her. His own throat burned with thirst, but his mind remained fixed on survival. He raised his spear high, signaling a halt. The hunters spread out eyes, scanning for signs of water. Hours passed before one of them, a young boy named Taro, shouted from a distance. His voice trembled with hope. "Taro, here, the ground is wet." The clan rushed forward. At the edge of a ravine, dark mud bubbled beneath their feet. Kin drove his spear deep, and water seeped slowly upward, pooling in the cracks. They fell to their knees, drinking greedily, faces covered in mud and relief. But relief was short-lived. From the shadows of the ravine came movement. First, the rustling of grass, then the shimmer of spotted fur. A predator, silent, patient, and deadly. A leopard, its golden eyes fixed on the smallest of the clan. The beast crouched, muscles coiled like a bowstring. Kin's heart thundered. He hurled his spear with all his strength. The weapon sliced through the air, striking the ground inches from the predator's paws. The leopard snarled, retreating into the tall grass. Its hunger postponed but not ended. The clan exhaled as one, fear clinging to them like smoke. They had escaped this time, but the land reminded them again. Survival was fragile, every heartbeat a gamble. That night, under the canopy of stars, Kin sat apart from the others, sharpening a new spear by firelight. His thoughts were heavy. The world was merciless, but within him burned something stronger will that refused to yield. For he knew, tomorrow, the true test would begin. The hunt for the great beasts awaited. And in that hunt, the fate of the clan would be decided. The night was restless. Embers of the fire glowed red in the darkness, but no one slept soundly. Every whisper of the wind carried the weight of danger. The clan huddled close, their eyes flickering between the shadows, and Kin, who sat at the fire's edge, spear in hand. He did not speak, he only sharpened. Tomorrow was not just another day. Tomorrow was survival. Tomorrow was legacy. At dawn the clan set forth, moving across the endless sea of grass. The air was heavy, thick with the musk of great animals. And then they saw them, the mammoths. Colossal shadows moved against the rising sun. Their tusks gleamed like ivory scythes, their trunks swinging with earth-shaking power. Every step pressed deep into the soil, every rumble of their call, a reminder that these were not prey to be taken lightly. The children gasped in awe. The hunters, however, trembled. Kin raised his hand, signaling silence. He studied the herd, watching their patterns, their movements. Asha stood beside him, clutching a sharpened stone. She whispered softly, "Asha, if we succeed, the clan eats for many moons. If we fail..." Her words trailed into silence. They both knew the truth. Kin's eyes hardened. Failure was not an option. The hunters spread out, each one moving with the caution of shadows. They carried fire-hardened spears tipped with stone blades, tools born of desperation, sharpened by necessity. Kin's plan was dangerous, almost unthinkable. Isolate the weakest mammoth, drive it into the ravine, and strike together. Hours passed as they waited. The sun burned overhead. Sweat mixed with dust, turning their skin into cracked earth. And then the chance came. A younger mammoth strayed from the herd, lagging behind. Its great frame moved slower, burdened by hunger and exhaustion. Kin signaled. The hunt began. Shouts filled the air, spears flashing in the sun. The hunters leapt from the tall grasses, their cries echoing across the plains. The mammoth roared, trumpeting with fury, swinging its tusks wildly. Earth shook beneath its charge. The clan scattered, dodging death with every heartbeat. Kin darted forward, driving his spear deep into the beast's flank. The mammoth bellowed in pain, blood staining the ground. More spears followed, piercing hide and muscle, but the mammoth fought back. Its tusk caught one hunter, lifting him like a child's toy and hurling him into the air. His body crashed lifeless against the stones. A cry of despair tore from the clan, but there was no time to mourn. The beast thundered forward, determined to trample them all. Kin shouted, voice raw with fury, "Kin to the ravine, drive it down." The hunters pressed harder, guiding the wounded giant toward the pit. Dust and blood filled the air. The ground shook with every pounding step, and then with a final roar the mammoth stumbled, crashing into the ravine. The earth trembled as its massive body fell, spears lodged deep in its flesh. Silence followed. The hunters stood frozen, their chests heaving, their eyes wide. Slowly, realization spread across their faces. They had done the impossible. The mammoth was theirs. Asha was the first to move. She fell to her knees, pressing her forehead to the earth in gratitude. The others followed, weeping with relief, laughter breaking through their tears. Kin stood over the fallen beast, his chest rising and falling. He placed a hand on the mammoth's cooling hide, whispering words no one else could hear. It was not just a kill. It was a covenanted trade of life for life. That night, the fire blazed brighter than ever before. Meat roasted over the flames, its scent carrying across the wind. The children ate until their bellies were full, laughter returning to their voices. The clan sang beneath the stars, their voices raw but alive, echoing across the plains like a promise to the future. Kin sat apart, watching the firelight dance in Asha's eyes. She smiled softly, the weight of survival finally easing for a moment. "Asha, we will see another moonrise, because of you." Kin did not answer. He only looked to the horizon, where the stars stretched endlessly. He knew this was only the beginning. The world was vast, unforgiving, filled with predators and trials yet to come. But for the first time in many nights, he believed. Humanity was small, fragile, but with fire in their hearts, stone in their hands, and courage unyielding. They would endure. The age of survival had only just begun. The mammoth lay still at last, its massive body stretched across the frozen earth like a fallen mountain. The silence that followed was almost unbearable, broken only by the wind whistling over the plain and the ragged breaths of the hunters. For a moment, no one dared to move. Their spears still trembled in the snow where they had been thrust. Smoke from torches hung in the air, and the memory of thunderous hooves still pounded in their ears. Then, slowly, the weight of what they had done began to sink in. Kin staggered forward, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion, and pressed his hand against the beast's thick fur. It was warm still, the last traces of life fading. He had never touched something so vast, so powerful, and yet now it was theirs. Asha limped toward him, her shoulder bruised from where the mammoth had nearly struck her down, and she placed her hand beside his. Others joined, one by one, laying hands on the creature that had fed their fears and dreams alike. For generations, mammoths had been Story's untouchable titans that ruled the plains. Tonight, that story changed. The clan let out a cry, half triumph, half mourning, for they knew this kill was not without cost. 2 hunters lay broken, one crushed beneath the mammoth's charge, the other pierced by its tusk. The ground around them bore dark stains, blood mingling with the beast's. Yet even in grief, they understood. Without this victory, the entire clan might have perished in hunger. They worked quickly, guided by instinct older than memory. Fires were stoked higher, casting light across the battlefield. Knives of stone bit into hide and muscle. The air grew thick with the smell of blood, steam rising as warm flesh met cold air. Children and elders gathered near, their eyes wide with reverence. The mammoth's tusks, long and curved like the crescent moon, glowed pale in the firelight. These would become tools, weapons, ornaments of status, perhaps even sacred objects passed to future generations. But before any meat was touched, a ritual was observed. Asha, with her voice low and steady, spoke words learned from her mother and her mother's mother. She thanked the beast for its life, for the strength it had given, for the warmth and survival it would provide. Her words rose into the night like sparks, carried on the wind. Others repeated after her, the chorus of gratitude echoing against the cliffs. To kill was to live, but to forget gratitude was to invite disaster. As the first pieces of meat were roasted over the flames, the clan's mood shifted. Hunger gave way to celebration. Laughter returned, cautious at first, then louder, freer. Children danced in the firelight, smearing their faces with ash and blood, pretending to be the mammoth itself. Elders told stories of past hunts, but admitted never had they taken something so mighty. This kill would be remembered long after they were gone, yet even in triumph, danger lingered. The smell of blood carried on the wind, and it was not long before eyes gleamed at the edge of the firelight. Hyenas, their laughter cutting through the night, circled hungrily. Wolves padded low to the ground, their breath misting in the cold air. Even lions, bolder now, prowled nearby. The clan knew they must defend their prize, for predators cared little for human victories. Kin rallied the hunters once more. "Guard the fire, guard the kill," he shouted. Spears were raised again, flames thrust outward to keep the beasts at bay. The night turned tense. Firelight against darkness, growls against human cries. The predators tested the edge of courage, but the blaze of fire and the sheer noise of the clan drove them back. Still, the message was clear. In the Stone Age, victory was never absolute. Every gain was a promise of further struggle. When dawn broke, the plain was quiet again. Smoke curled lazily from dying fires. The carcass of the mammoth had been reduced overnight, bones gleaming where flesh once lay thick. The clan, though weary, felt stronger than they had in seasons. They had food, hides, bones, and stories to last them. In the following days, transformation began. Tools carved from mammoth bone replaced weaker stone blades. The skins were stretched to make clothing against the cold. Fat was stored, marrow cracked open for its rich sustenance. Nothing was wasted. The mammoth had become part of them, not only in body but in spirit. Kin noticed something shifting in his people as well. Their eyes held more than survival now. They carried pride, identity, and a new kind of confidence. They had proven to themselves that even giants could fall when humans stood together. This knowledge was more powerful than any spear or fire. It was the spark of destiny. But destiny, too, brought burdens. The clan had tasted great victory, and with it came expectation. Could they do it again? Would every hunt demand such risk? And what of the predators that had tasted the scent of blood? The balance of power was shifting, and the world beyond their firelight seemed to take notice. On the horizon, dark clouds gathered, promising storms. New dangers awaited, rivers swollen with flood, predators hungrier than ever, rival clans who might hear of their triumph and covet their methods. The story of the mammoth was not an ending. It was the beginning of something larger, something that would shape all of humanity to come. And as Kin stood on the ridge overlooking the plains, the bones of the mammoth gleaming behind him, he whispered to the rising sun, "This is only the start."